Emerging from the scathing violence, racial tensions, and inequality under the control of apartheid in South Africa, in April of 1964, Nelson Mandela stood on trial for sabotage because of the actions he took in the pursuit of the liberation of his people. For years, he and thousands of black South Africans had fought and died for the right to vote, a measure crucial to any truly free and democratic nation. Facing the death sentence, Mandela stood in the dock of the Palace of Justice with the dignity and hopes of his people behind him and proudly said, "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal for which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." He, leaders in his country, and leaders around the world understood that giving all people the right to vote was what it would take to end the violence, hatred, and tyrannical rule over the many by the few in South Africa. In other countries like our own, voting is what prevents these atrocities. Unfortunately, many countries take actions to prevent and discourage women, the poor, and certain ethnic and religious minority groups from voting, understanding that their votes are powerful enough to eliminate power-hungry and profit-based governmental corruption. In Saudi Arabia, it wasn't until 2015 that women gained the right to vote. And even today, they make up just a small minority of the vote because of social and religious pressures. In 2018, Saudi women cannot make major decisions for themselves, such as life-saving surgeries, laws that could be voted out of being. In Bahrain, a constitutional monarchy in the Middle East, the right for all citizens to vote wasn't opened until 2002. Even today, all non-Sunni Muslim voters are extremely suppressed, often violently. This imbalance is reflected in human rights violations. Torture, lack of due process, and excessive punishment of protesters are common sights in Bahrain, occurrences we don't see in modern America. The U.S. has its own history with voting rights, starting in 1776 with only wealthy landowning men of European descent allowed to vote. Because we included those who didn't own land in the 1850s, included black men in 1870, included women and eliminated poll taxes in the 1920s, included Native Americans in 1924, federally guaranteed all Americans the right to vote, regardless of race, religion, education, or gender in 1964, and we finally opened up voting to 18-year-olds in 1971. We've evolved into a healthier, more balanced, humane, and prosperous nation. In other countries where not all are free to vote, they are often brimming with human rights violations, filled with corrupt governmental leaders, lacking due process of law, deprived of the separation of church and state, and pervaded with gender, race, or religious-based violence and discrimination. Because of the evolution of voting in our nation that has come before me, I can help vote politicians in and out of office, help decide which policies and issues are important and deserve attention, and help decide how our future will be shaped. My vote, combined with others, is the difference between American freedom and equality and a nation that oppresses and profits off its own people. In April 1994, in the first truly free and democratic election in South Africa's history, all citizens of every race voted. On polling day, South Africans stood proudly in lines over a mile long, often standing for over 12 hours in the heat, singing and dancing as they cast their votes for Nelson Mandela as president. They all understood how important voting is and just how much it could change their lives, their nation, and their world. I am humbled to have that same opportunity. Because of the sacrifice, perseverance, and fight of people like Nelson Mandela and Americans like Susan B. Anthony and Martin Luther King Jr., I know with certainty that my vote matters. And I will never surrender or lay aside the precious right for which many have risked everything. Through my vote, I can make my own decisions and continue to change the world in pursuit of that same ideal of harmony and equal opportunity that Nelson Mandela lived for.